Hey guys, what is up? It is Meredith here. I'm super excited that you're watching this, and we are about to go through a healthy apple pie breakfast cookie. This cookie is going to be an oatmeal cookie. It's very healthy, very nutritious, and perfect for a fall morning. You can freeze these when you bake them, and so then on a busy morning you can pop them in the microwave straight out the freezer, heat them up a little bit, and they're good to go. So like I said, they're healthy. They can be made gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free as well. I will be making a gluten-free version and dairy-free version today, but you can use whole wheat flour and non-fat milk if you would like. That's what the recipe originally calls for. And so these cookies are also very good for anyone with blood sugar issues or concerns. We'll be using oats as one of the ingredients, and oats are really good as a carb source. They fill you up and keep you full longer, but they also don't raise your blood pressure, your blood sugar quite as fast as some other sugary breakfast option. We will also be using maple syrup. Maple syrup is really good source of sugar. It is not refined sugar or anything like that. And then same thing as the oats, it does raise your blood sugar just a little bit slower than a normal sugar that you would use when you bake. And both oats and maple syrup also have a good bit of vitamins and minerals in them, and antioxidants as well. So they're just a great addition to your diet, to have these in the morning and start your day off right. So I'm just going to walk you really quickly through our ingredients list before we get started. So like I said, we will be using oats. I'm using gluten-free flour. If you would like, and you don't have to be gluten-free, you can use whole wheat flour. So either whole wheat flour or gluten-free flour. If it's gluten-free, please make sure that it's all-purpose flour, a 1-to-1 ratio, so that you're not having to do extra additives things. Salt, ground nutmeg, ground cinnamon, and then baking soda. These are all, baking powder, not soda. And I make this myself in a 2-to-1 ratio of cream of tartar and baking soda. So that's why it is in this, but it is baking powder. These are all of our dry ingredients. And then for our wet ingredients, we'll be using 1 egg. We'll be using an egg white, so we'll be cracking it, getting the yolk out, and using the egg white. Be using vanilla extract, melted coconut oil, and almond milk for me. And if you are not dairy free, you're free to use non-fat milk, but you want it to be a thinner milk, so that it's more thinner liquid. So that's why I'm using almond milk instead of an oat milk or whatnot. And so our next ingredient is going to be our maple syrup. When you're buying your maple syrup for this ingredient, or if you already have in your house, please make sure that it is 100% maple syrup, which you can see right here, 100% pure maple syrup, and not pancake syrup, not any of those brands that you typically buy for your kids, put on pancakes and stuff. A lot of people don't realize this when you're using it, but a lot of those syrups are mainly just corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup with a little bit of flavoring, but maple syrup is really good for you. Pancake syrup, not so much. Maple syrup is really good also in similar ways to oats. It raises your blood sugar lower, and it also has a lot of minerals and vitamins that can just enrich your day as well. And then last but not least, your apple. So it should only take about this is a medium-sized apple, as you can see, fits in my hand. My hand is really small, but you can see it. And it says in the recipe to do a red apple, but it really doesn't matter. If you have a particular apple that you love more than others, you're free to use that. I actually picked this one local up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And so I like picking local apples and cooking with them, just supporting them while also getting stuff from my own environment to enrich my own nutritional diets and stuff. So those are my ingredients, so we're going to jump right into the steps. Okay, so we will be chilling the cookie dough later on for 30 minutes, so there's no need to heat up the oven to begin with. So instead, I'm going to start with heating up the coconut oil. So I'm going to throw it in my microwave right here for just about 10 seconds and see how it does. With coconut oil, you don't want to always heat it in the microwave because I did not prepare beforehand. I'm doing that, but fun fact about coconut oil, when you heat it up in the microwave, it breaks down itself a little bit, like the chemical bonds and stuff. So it does change it just a little bit. So it is better if you some people will do this. This is my coconut oil jar. Some people will get the coconut oil jar and a hot bowl of water and put the jar and put the jar of coconut oil in the water, and it will melt the coconut oil naturally rather than heating up in the microwave. But because I did not prepare beforehand, I am going to be microwaving it. It is not a huge difference. It's just something to consider if you are the type of person to pre-plan a little bit better than me. Alright, we're going to check on it again. It is still a little bit solidified. A lot of it's liquid, a lot of it is solidified, half and half. So I'm going to do 5 more seconds. I started out with 10 seconds, checked on it, I did 5 seconds, and now I'm doing 5 seconds again, just to make sure that I'm not overheating it. Alright, and that is good to go. Actually, sorry, it is not good to go. I'm going to do 5 more seconds. It had just a little bit solid in it, and I don't want that sitting there because it might solidify again, and I do want it to be liquid. Alright, see, this is perfect. I'll show y'all. You can kind of see. There's no solid pieces in there. It is liquid, but I'm going to rest this over here, and I'll let it chill while I'm getting everything else ready. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to dice these apples. I'm first going to wash them. My sink is right here in front of the camera. I'm going to wash them pretty good. Even though I did pick them myself, I still want to wash them to make sure they don't have any dirt or bugs left over on them. I don't see any bugs, but just to make sure there's no dirt or anything. Alright, and I'm going to dry them off. Alright, and I'm going to get my handy dandy cutting board, and I'm going to come over here and dice these apples. With this, you do want to make sure that when you dice them, they're not too large. That you would want to shoot for a size around between a mini chocolate chip and a regular size chocolate chip. It kind of depends on you. If you want more of an apple piece, you can do it a little bit bigger, but as you go bigger, they may not cook fully and get soft like they would if they're small. So the recipe does suggest that we dice them more like a mini chocolate chip size. I had 2 apples earlier, and I did not say this earlier, but you may not need 2 apples. It depends on the size. All we need is 3/4 of a cup of an apple. So I do have this half right here that I'm not going to cut until I measure. So I'm going to measure right here. I know you can't see this, but I am filling it up with the apples, and I'm going to be pouring it into this bowl. So that's 1/4. 2/4. I'm not doing it exact because I really like apple. So if I have a little bit more than I'm supposed to, I'm totally okay with that. It's totally up to you how much apple you would like. 3/4. Okay, so this is perfect. I did not need to cut that apple. I only used 1 apple. I still have 1 right here completely whole. And I'm not going to cut this half. I may just save it to snack on later. And I do have these little pieces left because I did probably about 3/4 of the apple. I'm just going to go ahead and slide them in there as well because, like I said, I really like extra apple. So I am not worried about that. Alright, so I'm getting ready to mix my dry mixture together. I do have a medium-sized bowl. This came in a, the nesting bowl set. This is the second to biggest bowl because I am going to be mixing the dry ingredients into the liquid. So I'll put the liquid ingredients in the larger bowl than this one, but this is a medium-sized bowl. So I'm going to start out with oats. Let me open this up. Haven't opened it up completely yet. And we'll be using 1 cup of quick cooking oats. And actually, before I do this, I did miss a step. This recipe does ask that you do the measurements pretty exact for the oats and the whole wheat or gluten-free flour. So I'll have my scale right here. A cup for the oats is going to be 100 grams. So I'm going to set that right there. It's on 0. And then let me get another bowl for me to put my oats in. So if you've never used a scale before, it will be on 0 before you put something on here. But if you need a bowl to put something in, all you have to do is put the bowl right on the scale, wait for it to set the number, and then you go to press the button and it says 0. And it'll take it back to 0. So the bowl is not going to be counted. So I have a cup of oats. I'm going to pour it in. And see, that was 90 grams. So I'm going to do a little bit more. And that was a pretty good cup for me. It filled up the cup pretty good. A little bit more. Okay, 100 grams right there. Perfect. So now I'm going to pour these oats right into this bowl that I have for the dry ingredients. So the next dry ingredient that we're going to be using is, like I said earlier, the flour of your choice. Like I said, I will be using it was right in front of me. I was looking for the 1/4 of a cup and it was literally right in front of my face. But I will be using gluten-free instead of whole wheat. But if you would like to use whole wheat, or if you don't have to restrict yourself from gluten, I really encourage you to try whole wheat. So I'm gonna get 3/4 of a cup. So this is the first one going in on the scale as well. 2 and 3. We're at 81 right now. See where we get. And that was 124. So let me back it up a little bit. 96. And one more. Ooh. There we go. 90 grams. Perfect. Alright, so now I'm going to take away the scale. I do not need it for anything else. I'm going to put it away. And I will be pouring this flour right into the oats. So the next ingredient that we need is the baking powder. So for the baking powder, we will be using a teaspoon and a half. So I have my teaspoon handy and my baking powder. It's totally okay if you use already pre-made baking powder. There's 1 teaspoon. And when I bake, and there's a half required, I don't necessarily, unless it's something I know that needs to be perfectly measured, like the oats and the flour, I will just guess on my half on the teaspoon, especially for baking powder. As long as I get enough is what I'm after. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the cinnamon. I'm just going to wipe this teaspoon off so I can use the same thing. Alright, so my cinnamon, we're doing a teaspoon and a half. My cinnamon is actually getting low, and so it's hard for me to get out, but there is 1. And that was a little bit too much. I'm going to try and pour some back in there. And a half. And I did the same thing for that one because like I said earlier, I do love some cinnamon in my life. So I added a little bit extra probably than what someone else would. So this is nutmeg. That's the next ingredient that we will be using. For this one, we will only be using 1/4 of a teaspoon. If you know nutmeg, it is pretty strong in flavor. So you don't want a ton. So we'll be using 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm going to shake that in. Perfect. Alright, and then the last dry ingredient that we will be using is salt. And for salt, we just need 1/4 of a teaspoon as well. So I will dust the nutmeg off. Do not want that flavor in my other foods I use the salt for. And I'm going to shake this over. 1/4 of a teaspoon. Perfect. Okay, so now I will be whisking this together. Alright, I will be mixing my liquid ingredients together now. I'm using the bigger bowl, as you can tell. Compared to this one, it is a little bit bigger. So I'll be mixing this. So now the coconut oil should be cooled down enough that it is okay to mix with the egg, but it's not so cooled down that it is solidified again. So I'm going to feel the bottom of it. So that feels good. Doesn't feel hot anymore, it's just still liquid. So I'm gonna pour that in first. And like I said earlier, this is a 1.5 tablespoons of coconut oil. Cooled, but melted. And so I'm gonna get my egg. I'm gonna put this where y'all can see that. Like I said, this will be an egg white, so we're gonna crack it. I feel like I'm not the best at cracking it, so don't judge me on that one. But I'll be getting the egg white out. This is how I do it. I just move it from shell to shell. And I can see when the egg white has left completely. It's also just kind of fun sometimes to see how the egg does that. So I'm going to wash my hands now because I did just touch this egg. Before I do that, I am going to go ahead and pour it into the bowl right here. You just want to make sure to wash your eggs or don't wash your eggs. You can if you want, but I meant don't wash your hands. If you have just touched raw egg, especially if you go to touch your mouth or something like that, you just don't want to have to deal with that, as it does potentially, it is raw, so you just have to be careful with that. And so this is our coconut oil and our egg white. So next thing we're going to put in here is teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to be using the same spoon as the one I used for the cinnamon and nutmeg. I like to reuse things because I don't have a dishwasher, so it is left for me to clean. So I'm just going to be using the same one, and it won't affect it at all to have that in there. So a teaspoon. Alright, there we go with that. Our next ingredient is going to be maple syrup. So like I said, please remember to use actual maple syrup and not pancake syrup. So like I said, it is still a sugar, so please keep in mind when you're using it, don't overuse it just because it is maple syrup. It is still a sugar. So 1/4 of a cup going in. And if you do like it sweeter, you can use a little bit more. If you don't want it as sweet, you can use a little bit less of maple syrup if you would like. So the next ingredient we will be using is our milk. We will be using 5 tablespoons of non-fat milk, or if you're like me, I'm using almond milk. So to make it easy on myself, when I see 5 tablespoons, if you don't know, 1/4 of a tablespoon is, 1/4 of a cup is 4 tablespoons. So what I like to do is, since it is a liquid, it pours out pretty fast, so I like to fill up 1/4 of a cup of the milk. That is 4 tablespoons, and then I'll do just 1 more tablespoon after that. So I'm going to set it down since it is a new one. Oh, maybe not. Alright, so I'm filling up my 1/4 of a cup. Like I said, 4 tablespoons. So I'm going to pour that on in. And then I'm going to get out my tablespoon, which I lost somewhere. I had it out, and I'm not sure where I placed it. So this is actually 1/2 a tablespoon. So I'm going to do, that was a little bit extra. I'm not too worried about this. Alright, there's our 5 tablespoons. I'm not too worried about it. It's just adding extra moisture so the cookies are not too dry. So I may have put a little bit more just by a drop or so, but like I said, it does not concern me too much. So now I'm going to whisk the liquid ingredients together. Now I'm actually going to go get the dry ingredients. And I will be pouring these into the liquid mixture now. Alright, I'm going to set this bowl to the side over here. I have my spatula that I'm going to use. It says to fold in the flour mixture, so I'm going to be kind of gentle with it to not over mix it. If I feel that I need the whisk, I will switch to it, but this seems to be doing just fine. It is my Merry Christmas whisk, and I'm using it on a fall breakfast recipe. So I'm going to mix this until combined, and I don't see any dry flour or oats sitting around like this. Alright guys, so we have this mixture like I just showed you, and now I'm going to be mixing the apple as I said. So I'm just going to be getting the apple, I'm going to dump, I'm actually going to do a little bit at a time so it does not get overwhelmed. So mix these in for a second, and then I'm going to dump the rest in. Get them all out of the bowl. Alright, so now we're going to mix this together. Still smells so good. That's all I can say is it smells really good. But we are actually going to be putting this dough in the fridge for 30 minutes, and we're going to let it chill. Guys, so I just gotten my cookie dough out of the fridge, and I've balled these up and put them on the baking sheet with parchment paper. My oven is preheating to, 325 degrees. And as you can tell, these two right here, this one and this one, I have flattened these because these cookies do not flatten on their own when they bake like some cookies do. So you're going to want to get a measuring cup or a spatula and press the balls down. And then I'm going to throw them in the oven. Alright guys, so they're out of the oven. We cooked them for 11 minutes. The recipe says 9 to 11 minutes, and they're right at 11. While they don't look much different than when we put them in, they're still they look super good, they smell super good, and I'm super excited to try one of them when they cool off. Thank you so much for watching.